Hi, let's talk for just a little bit about the art of persuasion using rhetoric strategically. First of all, we need to understand what rhetoric is. Rhetoric is simply defined as the art of effective or persuasive speaking or writing, especially the use of figures of speech and other compositional techniques. We need to understand rhetoric to help us become better writers, better readers, better audiences, better thinkers, and more judicial purchasers or voters. When we hear rhetorical appeals, we know that there are three different appeals: ethos, pathos, and logos. These three appeals include the use of bandwagon, loaded language, and transfer, just to name a few of the techniques. Let's start with ethos. To help myself remember, I think of ethos, ETH, as ethical, credibility, or building that reliability or trust with the audience. I want my audience to believe me, to know that I'm reliable or trustworthy. So, as a writer or a speaker, I'm going to give testimonials, firsthand accounts. I'm going to help the audience know that I can connect with them and understand their situation and where they're coming from. When a speaker or writer uses ethos, they will often use the personal pronouns we, us, and our, including themselves and the audience together. We want to establish that common ground with the audience. We want to understand that we have shared beliefs. This could be beliefs in politics, this could be beliefs in religion, or simple moral, ethical beliefs. We want our readers to think like us and believe like us, and we want our readers and audience to think that we believe and think like them. Pathos is often confused with ethos. So, to help myself remember, I think of the PA in pathos as PA in passion. So, the use of pathos is that appeal to someone's emotions, trying to connect with the audience's needs and emotional values or emotional sensibilities. This is that use of loaded language or children, families, animals, something that's going to make my audience feel a certain way. For example, the Sarah McLachlan commercials with the sad puppies or sad kittens, and she's singing in the background the arms of an angel. That's definitely pathos. She wants you to feel a certain way. So does the ASPCA. And lastly, there's logos, LOG, logic, appealing to someone's logic or sense of reason. Now, the use of logos does not necessarily care if it connects to your values or ethics or belief systems. And it certainly doesn't always care if it connects to your emotions, but it does want you to think logically. So you're going to see a lot of facts or statistics. It's going to use inductive or deductive reasoning. Advertisers use ethos, pathos, or logos quite frequently. If you're watching a car commercial, you could see some transfer appeal, that would be ethos, or you could see facts where they're showing statistics on how their vehicle is the most reliable in a car wreck. But is that really facts for logos? Or is that facts for pathos so that you know your family is safer and you feel more emotionally connected to that product? Let's watch one Coca Cola commercial briefly and see if it uses ethos, pathos, or logos.
right. And your light show me, although it might be hard. Show me love, show me love, show me love. It's a real thing.
All right. So, Coca Cola, gotta love it, right? It's a trusted product. So, we believe in their product. We know that they're reliable. They've been around for decades. They have a great taste, for those of you who like Coca Cola. But was that commercial using ethos, pathos, or logos? If we think about what scenes we saw and the words that we were seeing and hearing, we saw words such as hatred, and we heard words such as cruelty. And we saw things like no one likes you, and then that no one likes you was changed to there's no one like you. So even though it's a product that we know and we trust, and that could potentially be ethos, it's definitely utilizing the appeal to our emotions. If we drink Coca Cola, the world is going to be a happier place. And so, because it connects our emotions, their main source of convincing and the use of rhetoric was pathos. When we think about the rhetorical appeals, we think about rhetorical techniques. And a rhetorical technique is simply how someone uses that rhetorical appeal. So keep that in mind, that Coca Cola commercial, as we go through these rhetorical techniques. We want to think about how they will say something or what they will say in order to tap into the ethics, the passion, or that use of logic. One of the techniques is inflated rhetoric. So instead of saying something as simple as rap music sounds bad or rap music isn't really music, an inflated rhetoric would exaggerate it. Rap music is destroying the melodic sensibilities of an entire generation, killing our notions of pleasing harmonies, leaving us with millions of young people who have no idea what good music truly is. Now, if you look at the difference, obviously the simpler ones are shorter. Rap music sounds bad. Rap music isn't really music. And notice we definitely know those are opinions. But when we exaggerate it, it's made to sound more like fact, although there's nothing actually backing it up. So, which is this? Ethos, pathos, or logos? It's made to sound like fact, so they're trying to make it come across as logos. Rap music is destroying the melodic sensibilities of an entire generation. Well, is it really killing the entire generation? Is it really killing the notions of pleasing harmonies? Is it truly leaving us with millions of young people? We would definitely call this a logical fallacy because it is not killing millions of young people's ideas of what truly music is, or is it really destroying the melodic sensibilities? Inflated rhetoric is a logical fallacy. Another rhetorical technique is a rhetorical question. Now, often my high school students like to open their essays with rhetorical questions because they think it's a great attention getter. And sure, as they're learning that writing process, that's a great way for them to start. But as we develop our writing, we need to move past that rhetorical question as an attention getter, and we need to use it purposefully for what it actually should do. It should actually get our audience thinking logically or ethically about something. We need to actually think in terms of that rhetorical question. So, a normal question asks us something that needs an answer, but a rhetorical question doesn't need an answer. It's thought probing. For example, our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? There's some loaded language thrown in there, but overall it's rhetorical questioning because, again, Patrick Henry is getting people involved in where they want to jump into that Revolutionary War. It's a passionate plea for involvement. Often we see great speakers such as JFK, Martin Luther King, even Obama in his race speech use the rule of three. When we use the rule of three, things are visually more stimulating. If we think in terms of visual aesthetics, and you take an interior design course, an art course, they're going to tell you to keep things in odd numbers. Those odd numbers are more visually appealing. 3 is a short, simple, powerful number. It makes something inherently funnier. It makes something more satiating or satisfying. And it can make something more effective because it's short, it's simple, and it's catchy. Readers are more often likely to remember this information. Audiences listening to a speech are more likely to remember the information because they can remember that pattern of 3. So, for example, we hold these truths to be self evident that all men are created equal, that all men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So, in this example, we have two sets of threes: self evident, all men are created equal, they're endowed by their Creator, and then we have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Another example, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. So notice this use of 3 develops a pattern that our audience is expecting something to be finished. If we just gave 2, they'd be waiting naturally for that third one because it's more pleasing to the ear. Abraham Lincoln even used the rule of 3: the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And even Douglas MacArthur: duty, honor, country. Those 3 hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. So in that last set, he combined some rule of 3 with some nice parallel structure there and made for a really nice tight pattern for his audience. And then even Lewis Carroll, our beloved author of Alice in Wonderland and Alice's Adventures Underground, the rule is jam tomorrow, jam yesterday, but never jam today. We have authors and speakers who use repetition. Repetition done well catches our readers' attention, and it really reinforces an idea or a concept that we need them to retain. Repetition done wrongly bores them and is condescending. Patrick Henry, however, stirs up pathos in his audience by repeating a simple but important point. If we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we have been so long engaged, we must fight. I repeat it, sir, we must fight. And then he uses repetition again. The war is inevitable. Let it come. I repeat, sir, let it come. Parallel structure is that grammatical parallel phrasing in a sentence. It's that establishing a pattern of subject, verb, direct object, or even subject, adjective, verb. However, you want that. I said that incorrectly. I apologize. Subject, adverb, verb. And so, however, you want that pattern to be established, it's instilling that same pattern so where it's more pleasing to the ear and to that eye. If you have struggles remembering what parallelism is, or you're having trouble understanding that concept, then in terms, think mathematically, where parallel lines are congruent within a plane. And so, same thing in parallel structure and grammar, those lines are congruent within a paragraph. So they keep that same pattern, and it is more pleasing to that ear. And like we saw in General MacArthur's example in the previous slide, you can combine that with one of the other techniques. Here we have some examples. JFK: ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. We have a famous song that says, whenever you need me, wherever you need me, I will be there for you. And then we have a phrase, a common idiom like father, like son, easy come, easy go. Alexander the Great: I came, I saw, I conquered. And then again, back to Patrick Henry: give me liberty or give me death. We've briefly already talked about loaded language, especially with the Sarah McLachlan and ASPA commercials. ASPCA? Pardon me. Sorry, didn't mean to get it wrong. We have those strong words, those phrases that have heavily connotative meanings. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair, Martin Luther King, battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. Notice those strong words that have a really emotional connection. But then we can even take simple words and we can load them up when we find a synonym that's more powerful. So we can take something as simple as walk and we can change it to strut, glide, meander, stroll. And we can change the meaning emotionally, that connotation, that suggestion of it. And then the last one we'll talk about today is transfer appeal. We see this most commonly done with advertisers, specifically on TV commercials or billboard ads. They can do it with something as phrases like Skittles taste the rainbow. And we think of rainbows as something beautiful and colorful, and we want that color explosion as we pop those Skittles in. But then it can also be visual, big taste, less fat. And notice that visual change of the fries that seem to be exploding out of that little carton. And that transfer appeal makes us want to be there, makes us want to taste that fry, or makes us want to put those Skittles in our mouth. Think about this as you're working on your next writing assignment or your next speech, even your next email to colleagues or to a boss. How can you be more rhetorically effective? If you like this video and want more, leave me a comment, subscribe, and like it in the chat.